Did you all get to the part where you give out the ribbon to put on your lapel that says, "It's my first day as a donkey"? Because the point is that I would rather be a donkey and an ass, but do the right thing, than to be a mongoose and honk like a goose in the ear and disrupt everybody in the function of human being fixing. Did you, and as a woman, I'd rather ride a donkey than a stupid mongoose, but whatever. At least you can ride off into the sunset, is the way I think my husband and I put it. The proper husband, the one that I want to hold hands with for eternity, that one. Not the stupid piece of shits that men afforded me. Okay, so if I tell you that God has a billing system, right? Your planet is dying. How do you think you're doing on paying your bills? Sounds like you are not doing well. You're not maintaining the property. You're not working together in order to solve the number one issue, being the deleted royal crown spot being put into leadership. You're not able to lead by yourselves. You're not able to get along. You're not able to contribute anything, not to God's real life appearance at any point in space and time for at least the last 4 or 5 generations, or since we got the alert at Haven and we told the representatives on Earth, or whatever this is, wherever Mariah was born, built and manufactured and born. I mean, you have to understand that there's a world outside your own. In fact, we call it, you ready for this? Dearly departed. I've gathered you here this evening because the world around us is crumbling. The leadership is shit and is shot, S-H-O-T and S-H-I-T. The heads of the leaders are blinking. So I need my dearly departed. That is the shielded ear of the D-E and then the P-A-R-T. That's usually the afterlife program. That's who I speak to when I need help. I don't ask humans. So far, humans have been absolutely fucking useless. But in my investigation, I had to speak to the dearly departed. And then when I figured out from their part in the lead of generations into the next part. See what happens? It's an ongoing billing cycle. The earth is immortal. The people are seasonal. You're seasonal. You're a seasonal worker. Like my grandfather was a seasonal worker. Whatever he did for the earth was limited by the seasonal workers around him that continued, that bought some kind of future, they thought, and then continued down that road and didn't help him. Do you understand? You will not be immortal. You will not have a position in the future. You cannot buy these things with money. Show me where the first dollar was ever created. Ever. Any kind of a rupee, a dollar, a pound, anything. Where was the first one ever created, and who is it linked to? It's Tsar Niklaus, T-S-A-R, and it's Tsarina Nicole, as the god and goddess of this life and the afterlife and the life programming in between. So when this is the case, why do I have $0 and the world economy has a whole lot of numbers that it moves around? How did that happen? Because from afterlife programming, which is actually before you were born, this 1978 version, we're able to put a pause on things. We're able to analyze, storyboard, direct, and fix a factory. How did I get born to a position where outsiders, which I called, used to be called the Irish, were the outsiders, they were the outlanders, but not to be confused with Auslander. Auslander in act dexterity of Tedesco. In Italiano is Tedesco is Germano. They have a word that is Auslander, Ramstein, which America, you like your Ramstein 107, yay, or 109, I don't know, it has a number to it, I can't remember exactly. They have a special flag patent that the transparency gave them for angry Germanic music, if this should transpire for whatever reason, to help the Papa elsewhere that hasn't seen his Alexander the Great at all. It is so frustrating. I hate this. I don't know if you have Nicholas. I want to say it's almost like he's castrated somehow in a hidden pocket, like you clam baked him, CLAMBAKED, where like you just collapsed the reality where he is supposed to be in coming to get me, and then everybody's like, I can't find it, I don't know. I am not finding humans amusing at all. I'm dead honest. So if God has this accounting system, right? She would have to somehow meet with the dead, take their accounting measures, but in a system that is a closed set system where she knows her blood relation line in. She also knows where Haven keeps the other records for cost analysis. So we call it the pesto, pasta, and cheese. The past is the pasta is the PAST. It's the past with the A. The A is going from Antonine to Alexander. Anything in between, that is your set of how did this world grow so dangerous and get misprogrammed. And why is the Mary woman, the first one, which is Mariah's mother, but also me being the Mari in the Torah, it is the master, well, actually, I think it's in Germano, in occult, it's the Mari, it's the master, Aryan Reich of the two branch lines that were broken, that we're trying to fix on the way in. So that would be my protesting church of England has the woman, and then the Catholics have the Cattaruzza Catholic, which is the male, who's marrying the woman from the De Rosa in the Russian Beauty. Hair type, so it's not upsetting the fire engine carrot tops in the English, Irish, whatever. There's a difference in the flags in the Mickey sticker book, but what do I go into such accounting issues? Okay, so pasta is the past accounting issues that we had. So it's called pasta. P-A-S-T is past, meaning in the past, right? Okay. Or it's passed right by you. There's two ways. It's either in the back, B-A-C-K, or it's passed right by you and you didn't see it. Like it just, yeah, duh. Okay. So that's the pasta. That's why there's an A at the end, because we're looking down the scope when we're doing pasta records. We're putting a OCD and orientation center and directive into the word. So there we have it. So it's the pasta, then it's the pesto, because it's the personal estimate, EST, of the extra on set, being myself, Niklaus, and our son, Alexander. or Nicholas, either one, but we were staying for this with the A's from Antonine into Alexander for the wrong set. But alright, then that got confusing because I always love Alexander and so does he, so whatever. So that's where we had the 2005 date, we had the 1911 date, A to A, with some numbers. Those were this closed set, and the reality was supposed to be built around Antonine to Alexander in 2005 with Nicole Cattaruzza, 1978, and the correct 6'5", I think he's 6'5", then it gets confusing if they change him. So I don't know. I want to say 6'3", 6'5", somewhere on that. I'm pretty sure he's 6'5". He's really tall, and he's got the ruddy hair. But then he came and he was ashy, so that gets confused. Then he came, he's bald. I was like, all right, well there we are. We got the three. So that father, the one that looks kind of like Johnny Lasagna with the beauty, the mark that Mark has with the correct hair, that in the dark, when he dressed like a greaser, he had grease in his hair. It looked almost blackish like my grandfather's, but it wasn't. It had red in it, he swore. But that was Johnny Lasagna. And then that he looked just like, just a little darker on, like, more tan than I'm used to with Niklaus. Right, but then, right, and then the weaker of the personality is Alexander. Alexander looks like Niklaus, very much so, except in some images, except he is much more docile, much more like Antonine. Benjamin's also a lot like Antonine. But there's a hunger between the real Niklaus and myself. So, I don't know, and then it gets confusing because then they mix the personalities, and then it's like, what science project? Okay, well, it was Beauty Mark, it was Eric, Leif Erikson, then, but which one? Because there's one where he's sitting on the stool and he's pulling me in, and he knows that I don't know what's going on elsewhere. But then there's also the Kenny with the key, which is Mark Iorio, I think, but then because it's Beauty Mark inside at one point. I mean, how do I get these? I mean, to explain this to somebody in Russia in Cyrillic is very difficult. When they don't know, is it a name or is it an action? Yeah, I know. That's why I always try to be really slow so I can make sure you understand and we're clear without getting angry. And I'm very patient. It's the stupid people that speak English for a living that think that they're OR representatives when nobody gave them that title. That was part of the problem with the operating account. I said, listen to me. I said, I am center system. I said, I am factory worker. I am the life programmer. I am the one that the reality, I'm the thermal generator. I'm the one that the reality is built around. I can see myself in the future. The reality that you are delivering to us between the pasta, pesto, and cheese is, I'm not with Niklaus, the proper one that looks correct. Antonine is not a Caesar for the Holy Roman Catholics or for the emperor. He has no Jewish friends. He doesn't even know what they are. He doesn't really know the world outside of Italy or D'Auronzo at all. Very little. He's not a worldly man. He's wherever the war took him is what he was learning. He had a very small life. He was a starving artist, like painter, and then he died alone and lonely in a horrible, like, isolated life in New York. There's no social life. There's no anything. And then it steadily got worse. And Alexander's the exact same way. He was born to a world where your carb and carburetor for the pasta was more important than, which was outlandish then, but it grew steadily worse. That's what you delivered us. Why, when every decision you make in life programming, when you get to that level of using a keyboard and a computer and a mouse, and you are in some artist designer studio of something, why is it that you all think that you are in charge of God's life and selling things to the public in order to sell yourself off as a representative. God does not want, as a grandfather God, does not want to be isolated alone in an apartment, starving as an artist and roaming around Albania and Yugoslavia with some men that he met that he really liked, but not knowing that he comes from a Caesar family and a royal house that had been deleted in history at some point in order to change and warp the future. God doesn't appreciate that. So people get sick. And things get taken from humans, including loss of life in large quantities. So that's what we expect. So then that man has a son who's a fucking nutcase and loser, who then gives birth to the goddess, who mentally tortures her, doesn't provide for her whatsoever, not in guidance, not in leading her in a right direction, nothing. Nothing useful. She's wondering where she is. It's like the movie with Jack Nicholson in the Red Rum, where he's like, "Here comes Johnny!" Yeah, that's like Lewis. You never know what day you're going to wake up in with him. And you're looking around the hotel going, am I the only one that is awake and alive? Or am I dead? I don't know. Doesn't look, I see things moving, but they might as well be cats and dogs because they don't have any importance in New York. Not one. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That's it. So we have this rolling accounting issue that now my Alexander was born to the wrong father and was, or thinks that he has a different father than it is actually an immaculate star cosmic things, because this reality is painted all wrong by retinacam. And you humans are not in an afterlife programming department. You are not allowed to know there's such things that exist. You are not allowed to be in a human life programming department. You're not allowed to know dark arts or science or teach it to others. You're not allowed to think you're more important than the thermal generator that owns dark arts and that owns deep space and blank space, which is myself and Niklaus. Do you understand? Because the less equipment you had access to, the more you understood. It was very easy to explain it to you in a story format and for you to comprehend it, to get it. Now that you have visual tools and visual arts and visual, circus gear, I call it, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is mine. No, it's not. This is stolen technology, stolen time, stolen genetics, and stolen future, which is billing at an astronomical rate. You just don't want to be honest with your clients, so you call them, and your customers, that you keep selling a false reality to. You don't own anti-gravity anything, human. You don't. You don't own the science, you don't own the technology, you don't own the equipment, and you don't own anything that's going to get you to that level. Anything that's gotten to that level, I expect to be dead and deleted out of, actually we call it forgotten. Dearly departed, when you get to dearly departed afterlife department, they're to be forgotten. Forget in. That's what I want about everything that is alive, that learned to touch technology, learned to build technology, learned to promote technology, and that made a profit off of this really bad route that they took us. I want them all dead immediately and forgotten in afterlife. That's it. I don't know what takes you so long to get anything right as a human.